Hey, it's John Terry with Real Life Management, and welcome to another Living Real Life. We want to take a few minutes in this episode of Living Real Life to give you an overview of the 10 steps to improving your relationship. If you haven't had an opportunity to watch a previous episode where Real Life founder Wayne Nance and I spent some time talking in depth and really going deep into box one, which is communication, I want to encourage you to do that. Now, we're not going to go into in depth on any of the boxes today because we've got a virtual masterclass that you can go through to actually learn how to take each one of these steps. And we're going to break it down for you so that you can gain a level of mastery over your relationships. And the goal in this is to help you alter your attitude, your relationships, without having to change who you are. You know, that's one of the unique things about real life managers. We teach you how to alter what God gave you, what you were hardwired with and softwired with by your parents and others in your formative years. We teach you how to alter that. Your relationships, your finances, your career choices, how you lead yourself and others, a variety of different areas that we talk about in personal coaching. And then in the corporate environment, we get into team building. We get into building high performance teams that don't require significant oversight by a leader. We create independent teams. We talk into improving communication. A lot of things that we do at Real Life Management to help you live real life, to help you manage real life. And that's what we're about. We want to jump in today and we want to talk about just a quick high-level overview of each of the 10 areas that we talk about in our 10-step system. Now, we talked about in that longer version we did, life events and how that introduces us into the game board. And we talked about communication as really the foundation of relationships. Going from communication, which is box one, into box two, which is trust, built on communication. You want to talk on that a little?
Yeah, first of all, as we leave box one, kind of the foundational box, there was reality check as well. Reality check is knowing your attitude. So quite frankly, as we talk about the boxes now, John, if a person hasn't taken our 3-minute survey and really had a reality check of their attitude, they're not going to be able to customize to our board properly. But they can still listen to what we have to say until they get back to our site, reallifemanagement.com, take survey. But if they want to customize these boxes to their particular attitude, that's going to be the reality check. They need to take survey. Let's go ahead and talk about something we've learned over time, John, which is box two. Like visualize a Monopoly board step by step. And these steps are in sequence for a reason, John. We didn't just flip a coin. We have found that if you have an attitude reality check, and understand the importance of communication and how you communicate and how others communicate with you, you start to build trust. When we don't have trust in a relationship, it means that we have not communicated. We have not communicated to a point that I feel comfortable about you. How many times, John, have you said to somebody that, or said to your family, if you meet somebody and you say, I just don't feel good about them. I just don't feel good about them. It's because there was a miscommunication and a lack of trust from the inception of the relationship. John, before I leave trust, you want to add something?
You know, I think it's important, and I've had this conversation with my kids, in the fact that trust is earned. Trust is not something that's immediately given. Trust is earned. And as you said, it comes from being open and honest and genuine in our communication. And I do like what you said, Wayne, about attitude and customizing, what we're going to cover in a very high level overview. Because as we mentioned in our expanded video earlier, there's 128 variations of attitude that we deal with.
And they do these steps differently, every one.
Every one of those does these steps differently. So it's important to make this work for you. You've got to know your attitude pattern. But Wayne, when we leave trust builds commitment to each other. Because when I can openly communicate and I'm genuine, I'm honest, and I'm a person of integrity, and my doing and my saying align, I now trust you. And when I have that level of trust, I can now be committed to you.
John, I want you to know commitment's a big thing I get on my soapbox about. You and I talked about technology overload and trying to build relationships and how it's tearing them apart. My big thing today is return my call. Return an email or something to me, at least respond back. Show me you're committed to our relationship. Show me you're committed to what we're working on. Show me you're committed to what you committed to. And so I want you to know that you hit it on the head. A lack of follow through, a lack of response, showing up late, not showing up at all, not hitting deadlines. That shows a lack of commitment in a relationship. And then the trust starts to go away. And then we can look back at your attitude score and almost predict behavior before you do it. And so I think that commitment is a big deal. And what's funny, John, in box 4, step 4, is conflict management. Well, the reason we put box 4, conflict management, right behind box 3, commitment, was we knew your lack of commitment that caused a lack of trust is now causing a conflict between us.
And that absolutely feeds back to box 1. We can't communicate. We don't trust each other. We're not consistent and persistent in our commitment to that relationship. Conflict is going to be the end result. That's just where we're going to end up. That's why the divorce courts are full of people that got together and thought, this is going to be the rest of my life. And 6 months later, they roll over and look at that person and it's, oh my God, what have I done? Who am I married to? I thought I knew this person.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, it's not who I thought it was. Guess what? We didn't know the attitude of the person we were going to and we
John,
we're going to be in conflict with.
It's not just about marriages, broken business relationships.
Oh, absolutely. Yep.
Sisters and brothers not getting along. Extended families not agreeing on stuff. Your customers don't like you anymore. They don't want to talk to you. They don't want to text you anymore. So the point being is that conflict management is where a lot of people live based on their attitude. And they say to themselves, I don't know why I'm always having so much problem. I don't know why I'm always in conflict. Well, maybe we should look at your stinking thinking in box 1 and look how people don't trust you in box 2 because you're not committed to anything and you don't follow up and follow through. And now they're mad at you. Now, John, box number 5 is fun and relaxation. Now, let me ask you something. How much fun and relaxation is a person that's in conflict with their whole life almost every day? How much fun and relaxation are they having unless they're one of the attitude groups that just does everything as fun and relaxation?
Wayne, you're right. I think to the fact that, I see couples today that talk about the fact that, I'm going to take a trip. And I'm like, well, is your wife going? Well, no, I'm not going to have any fun if my wife goes. Event planned. And, well, I'm not going to invite that department because we don't. Well, guess what? It's all relationship. And you're right. We can't have fun. And the stressors of life that cause us to make inappropriate, improper, or just plain old bad decisions come when we can't have fun and we can't relax.
I know. And then here's my favorite one, box 6. Well, how do you do in career management? Well, I can say this to you. If you're not doing good in relationship management and commitment, you got a lot of conflict, you ain't having a lot of fun, and your career is going down the tube. Because I used to say to people in corporate training, if my attitude's got me in trouble with my relationships before I get to work, I don't check them at the door. I bring them inside the building of my work, and I share my misery with my coworkers and my boss and my customers. So if my relationship board is out of control when I get to the office, I promise you my career will be out of control. And if it isn't, it will be at some point.
Wayne, you're right. And I can think to instances where I've had an opportunity also to do some corporate training. And as we begin to talk through this particular strategy from a business relationship perspective, all of a sudden employers begin to realize that these issues that are taking place at home, that their employees bring into the business, impact productivity in the marketplace. And somebody that's stressed over money, stressed over relationships, stressed over health and wellness issues, they don't like their job and they're not having fun doing what they're doing. They are not going to be as productive, and they're not going to be committed to the ultimate goal of helping this business achieve
something. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. And then, John, here's the biggie. This is the winner behind door 3. You know, we got 3 doors. Here's the big winner. Number 7 step, finances. 85% of the people out there in the world today struggle with money. And it's higher than that if they have broken family relationships. That could be anything from credit card debt to 2 divorces to borrowing against the retirement plan, maxing it out. But what we're doing is we're trying to use our money to buy our happiness. My first book, Mind Over Money by Thomas Nelson in the 90s, I wrote with a stress psychologist about families and businesses, said that money's our top drug in America to make us feel good. So if we're failing with our relationships, we're not having any fun, our job's falling apart, we take our credit card and we go on a cruise, or we take and buy us a sports car, or we do something to feel better as our drug of choice. And so finances don't hardly have a chance when there's broken relationships.
Yeah. Or we start drinking the Cokes and the Twinkies to get some comfort food to make us feel better, to get a chemical dump to take our mind off the stress, or we binge watch movies, or we do something with our money. You know, it's interesting, Wayne, I think back to 30 years ago, Thomas Wolfe developed a system called financial needs analysis.
Mm-hmm. I remember.
Look at his numbers from 30 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
That 90% of Americans, based upon the statistical data available over 30 years ago, 90% of Americans are going to retire broke.
Yeah.
Think about all the education we've had on finances, all of the video courses, all of the seminars, the education of financial service providers, insurance agents, stockbrokers, investment planners, financial analysts, financial planners. All of these people for 30 years have been speaking to Americans about their finances. The peg has really not moved. We've gone from 90% to 5% still having money problems today.
Yeah, on 85, I'm giving you a north wind 30 mile an hour behind you. But at the end of the day, John, behind every broken relationship are broken finances. And so, you know, drugs, alcohol, rock and roll, obesity, technology, all of those addictive behaviors come out of broken relationships. We're talking specifically about money today, but money is how we do our money is the result of our bad communication, our bad building relationships at work and at home. And John, if that's not enough, we share it with our extended family, box number 8. We go to our mom-in-law's house, our sister-in-law's house, our cousins, and we share our miserable relationship building with them too. We try not to confine it to just our house. We share it with everybody, even our work family. We start sharing our bad relationship building with our coworkers, extended coworkers. So box 8 is how are you doing with your extended family? Now that we've talked about your finances, your career, your commitment, and your trust, how you doing?
You know, Wayne, I think about too the fact that we talk about that over half of all Americans end up going through divorce at least once in their lifetime. The number is somewhere between 51 and 56% of the study you look at. And so not only do we have our current extended family, we've got all that former extended family, our new family we didn't know we had till we for the second or third or fourth time. As
his, hers, and ours
today. Yeah.
Well, the good news about broken relationships is we get to extend our family.
That's right. Whether we want to or not, we end up extending it sometimes in some pretty miserable ways. And now we're sharing that misery with not just one family, but 2 or 3 or 4. And all of a sudden everybody's wondering, you know, you feel like you're a loser and you feel like you're struggling in life. And you're taking it to all these other people that are also messed up in their relationship. It just becomes a misery party.
I know. And you know what's funny, Jack?
Prey on each other's misery.
I used to ask people that had their 3 or 4 extended families, I said, how did you get here? And they said, well, I keep picking losers. And I said, well, what's the common theme here? You're picking. Each time you're picking. If you're always at the scene of a car wreck, you must be part of the wreck.
That's right. Yeah. And it's, we're laughing at a very serious subject, because when you think into the logic of some of the decisions that we make, we begin to understand how important our attitude is.
Yeah.
Because one of the things we teach in real life management is our attitude shapes our belief. And our belief is our view of the world around us. And our attitude and our beliefs shape our choices. And lest you think that's not the case, there's a very small percentage of all of the choices that we make on a daily basis that are not directly influenced by our attitude and our choices. But Wayne, we talk about extended family, and when we get into relationships and the stresses that take place in relationship, that also impacts romance and sexuality. You meet the girl of your dreams or the guy of your dreams, and you get married, and you think all of this is going to be great. And then the stressors of life come into play. We start dealing with trust and commitment issues. We get into conflict. We've got financial issues because we're mismanaging money or making bad money decisions. We've got extended family, what I call the in-laws and the outlaws that we happen to be married to. And that begins to impact the most intimate part of our relationship with other people, especially family, and that's romance and sexuality.
Well, first of all, John, for those that have broken relationships, you can throw the romance part of that box out. It'd just be sex. So a lot of people that are having romance and sexuality problems don't understand the balance of attitude between romance and sexuality and make it just into sex. We see a lot of broken relationships where that has not been communicated with the opposite sex properly. So I think romance and sexuality are important in our box 9, but I think by the time people get to that point, if their attitude's been out of balance with these other boxes, the lines are blurred between romance and sexuality in their mind.
Yeah, and we've got a generation of people that don't understand the intimacy of romance. And to them, it's all about the physical pleasure of sex. Mm-hmm. And I remember my dad as a young man telling me before I was getting married, he said, son, sex is great. But he said, as great as sex is, he says, the longer you're married, it's not as much fun as it was when you were 20 years old than when you're 50 or 60 years old. And I didn't understand that for a while, because I thought, man, this is great. And every opportunity I have to do that, it's fun. But as you get older and you realize that there's an intimacy and there's a romantic part to living in relationship with other people that's often overlooked or ignored, this is another area where relationships sour. You stop dating your wife or you stop dating your husband. Now that romantic, that chemical interaction that takes place that keeps you bonded begins to separate. And as a result of that, romance and sexuality begin to have issues in any relationship.
John, as I'm listening to you, something hit me. We have so many unwed situations and children in the foster system and children. We have the abortion issues, all these issues that everybody talks about, okay, that come out of sex and romance. This is our box 9 of 10 steps to relationship building, isn't it? Do you understand that most people today that are getting in trouble with family situations are making this box 1? This is box 1. And they're trying to recover communication, trust, commitment, conflict, fun, careers. They're trying to recover extended family, finances, because they've made it their box 1 instead of box 9 in the steps.
Yeah, and it literally becomes a drug of choice at that point. And then I think into the perversions of that we deal with in society today with human trafficking, especially when it comes to the exploitation of children. In a lot of areas that I've spent time in the martial arts community and speaking into predator awareness, predator safety, rape and assault prevention, human trafficking, the exploitation of children for sexual gratification in many parts of the world, it becomes a perversion of romance and sexuality that really is not what we're looking for in solid, strong relationships.
Amen, brother. And I think it brings us to box 10. And the reason that we have this box 10, this spirituality, is box 10 kind of brings it all together. It brings all this together. A lot of people say, well, why do you have that number 10? Why isn't it number 1? It's number 10 because it takes all the road and ties it back together to our box 1. If you keep going around, which is communication, who are we? Reality check. Our spiritual foundation. And John, I'm just going to say this, and there are a lot of people that can agree or disagree, but I got to answer for my own life. I'm a Christian. You're a Christian. Our spirituality is God. That's what we believe in. And, I don't want to belittle what somebody else believes. I don't want to diminish what somebody else believes. But for those that are Christians out there watching us today, spirituality, I don't have to use the word spirituality in some global sense. To me, I tell people all the time, if you don't have a communication with God and a relationship with God, we're probably not going to be able to help you like we should, because you need that foundation. And so, not to take away from anybody else, but that's where my head is on that box 10. So I welcome your thoughts.
Absolutely. If we think into the major religions of the world that are out there today, in some way trying to connect with their creator. But if you don't have a spiritual foundation, something that's going to cause you to work for something that's bigger than yourself, and really have a spiritual foundation that's going to help guide you. And there's principles. Interestingly enough, I was doing a study not too long ago, and one of the tenets of Christianity is the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. That's relationship 101. In every major religion in the world, Judaism, Islam, Buddhism, Zoroastrianism, you go down the road and look at all of the major religions of the world, they all have a variation of the golden rule.
I believe that. I believe that because I've spoken at several different religious temples and synagogues, and we all share a common belief of values.
That's right. Yep. And it's from spirituality that we get our values that really allow us to serve others as we would want to be served. And I think really when it comes to relationships, that's what's missing. Our society has become so selfish, and it's become all about me.
Yes.
We forget that in relationship, it's about the other person. When I'm doing speaking on relationships to couples, and I'm doing premarital counseling, one of the things I tell young couples is my definition of love may be different than what you've heard before, but if you'll build your relationship on this definition of love, you've got a better opportunity to survive this relationship long-term than anything else. And that's this. I say love is a commitment to another person's welfare and well-being.
Yes.
Not an attraction to charm or good looks. So now we go back to what we talked about in those 10 steps. Based upon a spiritual foundation of serving others as you would want to be served, adding value to the other person and putting them first, and understanding that love is a commitment to someone's welfare. Money, that comes to providing for them and their well-being. If we live that way, we can live real-life relationships the way God intended.
Yeah, John, what that does is that takes us back to step 1, starting over with a reality check of their attitude and communicating to their attitude customized.
That's right.
And here we go again through the steps.
And that's the neat thing about this game board. And as we have this posted, people are going to be able to see this progressive step, because we're going to have an image of that posted for you to be able to see. But for you to want to learn more and go deeper into how do you customize this 10-step process to your specific attitude, we've got a course that we've got available to you. And You can find details for that on our website, reallifemanagement.com. Or if you're following us on our Facebook page, reallifemanagement.com Facebook.com/real life management. Facebook.com/real life management. If you're following us on that page, we'll have information there on where you can access that course as well.
I feel so backslashed at this moment, but anyway, John, let me ask you this. Can you, one more time, can we just name off the 10 steps as we close this thing out?
Absolutely. Let me just walk through those as we wrap this up. We talked about having a reality check. Number one, understanding your attitude, and from there, learning how to communicate based upon your attitude. Number two, trust. Communication builds trust. Trust builds, number three, commitment, giving you an opportunity to be committed to someone that you are in a relationship with. Commitment, trust, and communication, if not properly managed, leads us to box 4, which is conflict management. If we're communicating, trusting, and we're committed to each other, we can work through conflict. If there's dysfunction in box 1, 2, and 3, you're going to have conflict management issues. If you've got conflict management issues, box 5 is fun and relaxation. If life is great in your family, you're going to have fun. You're going to be able to relax. If it's not, you won't. 6 is career management, being able to manage your career, and that comes from relationships at home, relationships in your place of business, and how they intersect and interact with each other. We talked about box 7, finances, and the stresses that that brings to a relationship. The number one cause of divorce in America is financial. We talked about issues of extended family, and due to the fact that we've got a lot of broken marriages, we've got a lot of mixed, blended families today, we end up with a plethora of extended family. We talked about romance and sexuality, box number 9, and then box number 10, having the values and the character of caring for others that come from having a solid spiritual foundation in something that's bigger than we are.
John, one thing I want to add is it sounds good when we lay it out. But what we found is that if you skip a box, you don't have a relationship plan in your life if you skip a box.
That's right.
A partial relationship plan.
Yeah. These 10 steps are put together in a specific order because they build on each other.
Yes. And
in our master class that we teach, you'll learn more about that. But for today, we wanted to introduce you to the concept and get you thinking into relationship, giving you an opportunity to pause for just a moment and engage in some reflective thinking as you think about how you are interacting with and relating with other people. You know, maybe it's time that you put this down and you quit using this as your communication tool. And as Wayne said earlier, you pick up the phone. Or when we can actually get back together, or maybe you're social distancing, but you're still face-to-face having conversation. Or maybe it's doing like we are, and we're interacting on technology, using Facebook, using FaceTime, using Zoom, using Google Duo, using Skype, using other technologies that are available where we can actually have face-to-face interaction.
John?
Yes, sir.
I believe if you can't see their eyeballs, you didn't really communicate.
You know, I agree with that. You know, we talked about communication and interaction being a lot of that nonverbal. But let me leave you with this. Your communication, your relationship, and your ability to interact with other people is going to be based upon you uniquely understanding who they are. And that's what we do here at Real Life Management. We help you understand who you are, how you're uniquely made, and how to recognize and appreciate the unique differences in your family members, in your coworkers, in those that you volunteer with in your community, and learning how to interact and relate together so that you can enjoy real life together. Any closing comments as we wrap this session up?
Yes, I just want people to remember that your relationship choices today will be your relationship reality tomorrow.
Absolutely. You know, we talk about our attitude, our beliefs, and our choices actually shape our destiny. We call that the ABC model. Your attitude shapes your beliefs. Your attitude and beliefs shape your choices. And the choices you make today become the destiny of your life tomorrow. So if you want a better relationship, work on it. That comes number one with working on you, becoming a better version of you so that you can become a better version of whatever you need to be, husband, wife, brother, sister, father, mother, whatever that is. Relationships are important. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Living Real Life. I'm John Terry with Wayne Nance. Thanks for joining us and have a great day.